listening to The Phillip Jordan Show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in on this Wednesday to the Phillip Jordan Show. I'm your host, Phillip Jordan, in studio host and producer of Dust Football on 96.9, the legend and Auburn writer for Last Word on college football. Today's show, all Auburn. We're going to talk Auburn football and basketball with Taylor Jones, the managing editor of the Auburn Wire. Good friend Taylor. He will be on in just a few seconds to talk all things Auburn with us. We will talk about the Auburn draft picks and kind of like what does it mean that where the talent level has been at Auburn over the last couple years for Auburn to not have a draft pick until the 5th round. We will jump into transfer portal latest with Auburn. Of course, I've discussed this on previous episodes, but get Taylor's thoughts before we jump into that conversation. We'll also talk basketball wise, transfer portal, players coming back, all kind of good stuff when it comes to Auburn football and basketball here on today's edition of the Phillip Jordan Show. You can check out the Phillip Jordan Show podcast over at wiregrassdailynews.com or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review, and I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you leave just 4 stars, you are just a straight-up hater. You can email me at sports.philipjordan@gmail.com. All right, everybody, as promised, I am being joined by Taylor Jones, the Auburn Wire managing editor, part of USA Today. We don't have Taylor on screen with us as per usual, but we do have him on the line. And Taylor, I appreciate you jumping on today. Talk some Auburn football and basketball.
Yeah, as always, thank you for having me on. Looking forward to talking a lot about that stuff. It seems like a lot's happened since the last time you and I spoke, and I'm happy to dive in it with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the people watching on YouTube, of course, they get to see a lovely picture, a great picture of Taylor Jones there on the screen.
There it is.
There you go. There you go. You may not be on the video, but your image is there for everybody to see on YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff. But man, I kind of wanted to. The plan was obviously we're going to talk a lot about transfer portal, football and basketball, the changes, the additions, the losses Auburn has had there. But this past weekend, of course, everybody knows the NFL draft, and it just one of the things I guess is kind of like we knew this. I think anybody that covers Auburn pays attention to the football program that they lack of talent when Hugh Freeze got there. But when you look at the draft, Auburn didn't have a player drafted until the 5th round. I mean, you were talking off air, not a single offensive player taken. Last I checked, a few offensive linemen got signed as undrafted free agents, getting looks there. But all defense, 5th round. You just kind of thoughts on that, Taylor, because it just kind of let us know an idea of the lack of talent that Hugh Freeze inherited over a year ago when he took the job.
Yeah, and it is kind of unfortunate, and kind of going back to what the wires were like during draft day and all that. And we have a Slack channel where all of the editors come together and we share ideas, or we just kind of talk about things that are going on. And of course, the draft was the big topic of discussion. And after day one, our main boss, hey, great job to the Longhorn Wire side and the Aggies Wire side, and Roll Tide Wire and all that for your great draft coverage. And then day 2, it was the same thing, great coverage for you guys. And kind of made the comment. I said, if I could just get one guy drafted, that would be incredible. And it took us almost 3 full days to finally get one there. But yeah, Nehemiah Pritchett, DJ James will be reunited with Derek Hall in the Seahawks defense. That'll be a lot of fun. And kind of surprising me a little bit there that DJ James wasn't the first one picked, nor was he even picked in the 5th round, the same that Nehemiah Pritchett and Jalen Simpson were. But I feel like those 3 together are going to be a lot of fun, especially in a pro defense. It'll be interesting to see how all 3 of those play out up in Seattle. Jalen to Indianapolis, I think, is going to be a really good pick. I expect him to kind of, make his way onto the roster. Don't know how much playing time he'll actually get, but I expect a really good training camp out of him. And then the defensive lineman, of course, it kind of surprised me that Justin Rogers was chosen before Marcus Harris. Not that I think that Marcus is, that much better or, a world beater compared to Justin Rogers, but just, you look at all the mock drafts, whether it be ESPN, whether it be USA Today, CBS Sports, Pro Football Focus, whichever one you had, Justin Rogers wasn't anywhere near there. So for him to go in the 7th round before Marcus Harris, who I feel like was a steal for the Houston Texans in the 7th round, it was kind of a shock that he was still there. That kind of surprised me too. A lot of surprises there in the draft, but a lot of things that I feel excited about going forward for Auburn's NFL stock, and maybe that will kind of start a trend because we've noticed, in recruiting, things are starting to pick up a little bit, and maybe an NFL draft stock will start to see some production pick up in year 2.
So we talk about those guys, and just like a refresh for everybody. Like I said, 5th round, Seattle, Nehemiah Pritchett. Indianapolis, Jalen Simpson. In the 6th round, you had DJ James going to Seattle. So Auburn fans have a lot of reason to watch the Seahawks. I can't go there, Taylor, because I'm a Packers fan. I still have bad feelings. The 2014 NFC Championship game with Seattle. So I just can't go there with the Seahawks. The Cowboys in the 7th round, like you said, picked up Justin Rogers, and then Marcus Harris, Houston, there in the 7th round. Somebody else connected with Auburn's past, and I want to ask you, it's a serious question and also kind of tongue-in-cheek at the same time. We always see Alabama fans still want to claim Jalen Hurts. So do Auburn fans now claim Bo Nix as one of their own in the NFL?
I absolutely would, and the reason that I say that is because no matter what happens, no matter, when he gets on Monday Night Football in a couple of years and he says Bo Nix, University of Oregon, in the starting lineups, he has a piece of paper that says Auburn University on it. So that's something that cannot be taken away from him. That's something I feel like cannot be taken away from Auburn fans. So if Alabama fans want to claim Jalen Hurts, I feel that Auburn fans still should have the opportunity to claim Bo Nix. And I think he's going to do big things out in Denver. Sean Payton seems to think that he and Drew Brees have, similar skill sets and all that. So I feel like if that's the case, Sean Payton could probably do wonders with him. And but yeah, I still think Bo Nix belongs in orange and blue, and the NFL fate's seen that as well, as he's now with the Denver Broncos. So yeah, absolutely, I'm definitely going to claim Bo Nix as still an Auburn man because he stayed long enough to get that diploma, which is a very prestigious piece of paper. So yeah, absolutely, former Auburn quarterback Bo Nix in the NFL. That is definitely a good ringer to it.
Taylor, did you know that Bo Nix's dad played for Auburn?
Did he? I did not know that. That's impressive.
I did do it one last time. I mean, how many times when you would watch an Auburn game, his 3 years starting at Auburn, they would mention that, his dad played there. And it was kind of like,
I'll do you one even
go ahead.
better. Now that they're teammates, did you know Jared Stidham is from Texas?
Yep. I was about to bring that one up too as well. Oh, yeah, I was going to bring that one up. I guess they haven't found anything for Peyton Thorne to connect into the broadcast.
Yeah, he went to Talladega. Let's see, what was it, either last weekend or 2 weeks ago, and there's a picture floating around social media. I'm sure they'll probably find something to hit with on that. But yeah, we had Jared Stidham was from Texas. Bo Nix's dad played for Auburn, so now we just gotta find something on him, possibly Walker White in the next couple of years. So it's just going to be interesting to see what's next in the the relationship of Auburn quarterbacks and what thing sticks out to them, no matter what their playing ability is.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we talked a lot about some guys who are moved on from Auburn. Let's look at the future. We talked about defensive line there with Justin Rogers and Marcus Harris off to the NFL. And obviously that leaves a hole in the middle of Auburn defense. And Hugh Freeze even talked about it after A-Day that, Auburn was thin there. I mean, you had Jason Jones returning. You have Jalen McLeod, who made some plays in A-Day. Keldrick fought those guys more on the end and getting after the passer and stuff like that. But obviously they needed to go out and improve, especially the middle part defense line. And, obviously in the winter portal time, they got Gage Keys and Trill Carter out the portal. But going out and getting Isaiah Rakes, A&M, and I guess he attended, I don't know, the USC part, never actually played a game for him. And then Phillip Bleedy there at Indiana. Two big gets, add a lot of depth. Defense front, of course, you have to have in the SEC. What was your big takeaways from those two transfer portal acquisitions for Auburn?
I feel like they were really good fits. I know Phillip Bleedy. He did a lot of good stuff at Texas Tech. It seemed like he got slightly better every year that he was at Lubbock, and then just really went off when he was at Indiana. I think he matched his 3-year total in tackles last season in Indiana. So I feel like that's going to be good. And Isaiah Rakes too. I believe he went through spring at USC, so it was kind of hard to find photos of him in a Trojan uniform when I was writing the story about it. So yeah, those two I think are going to be really good, and if nothing else, they possibly penetrate the line, or they'll kind of be used just to kind of clog the holes that will bounce everybody outside. So the Jalen McLeods, so the Keldrick Falks will have a shot to get on the outside and make the tackles too. So I felt like those are great acquisitions. It was just a great week overall for Hugh Freeze in the transfer portal last week. I feel like he filled several needs that he needed to. And, the portal I think is officially closed right now. So that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody that's in the portal has to be committed right now. Players can still go on visits and such, but they can't declare. So, there's no telling who else they're going to try to bring in. I know several edge rushers were, kind of being in the mix, possibly an offensive lineman or two to help out. But filling some great needs immediately after spring practice, I felt like was really great on Hugh Freeze's part. I'm looking forward to seeing how well those guys do with the new defensive line coach as well.
Yeah, most definitely. And just Hugh Freeze is doing work, building this team up. And we'll mention him, edge rusher. Kieran Crawford out of Arkansas State. There had 5.5 sacks last season for Arkansas State. I think what's cool with him too for Auburn, they got two guys we mentioned there. They're got 1 year eligibility left. So after this time next year, they won't be there. Hopefully they'll be having their names called, go off to the NFL. But when you look at Crawford, he's got multiple years of eligibility remaining, and this is obviously a guy you would probably see that would probably be in the second unit of the defense. Who knows? We'll see what happens when the season gets here. But also a player that perhaps you may could develop into that starter and could be one of the elite pass rushers eventually in the SEC.
Yeah, we had a lot of success from getting a guy out of the Sun Belt last year in Jalen McLeod in that edge spot, and I felt like he really took off. I feel like he's only going to get better. Kieran Crawford, another guy that kind of fits that mold. He's also from the Sun Belt and kind of looking to play big boy football in the SEC. And I feel like the edge, was kind of thin because really the only headliners you had were McLeod and Keldrick Falk coming back. Elijah McAllister's no longer with the program. He's moving on to I think his doctoral degree. I think he's got many degrees to his name. So. And I'm sure he's well on his way to a fantastic career where he'll make a lot of money and do a lot of positive things out in the world. But yeah, it's going to be good for him. The recruiting class coming in, you got Caleb Falk. It's going to be coming in the 2025 class. Should he stay committed? I think there are several others that they're taking a look at that they haven't gotten a commitment for yet. But right now, kind of developing Keelan Coleman so that he ultimately becomes that main guy and can kind of be the guy to lead those 2025 and then eventually 2026 recruits to come in and kind of be a leadership role. This is probably going to be a big year for him. I expect him to do a lot of good things, but maybe not take on the big role right now, and learn a lot from Jalen McLeod, possibly learn a lot from Keldrick Falk, even though he's younger, or even though he's older than Keldrick Falk, and then just kind of be that leader once everybody comes in a couple of years.
Talking about Isaiah Rakes too, the fact that he played for DJ Durkin at Texas A&M is huge too. So he knows a lot about what DJ is going to want out of his defense.
Yeah, that's definitely something I hadn't really thought about either. That is a good point. So yeah, a lot of leadership on that defense, which is definitely something that you need because we talked about the NFL draft earlier. All those big leadership guys are now in the NFL. You think of Jalen Simpson, who was there, Nehemiah Pritchett, DJ James. They got to have somebody else to step up and lead that defense. And Isaiah Rakes could possibly be that guy because he knows what to expect out of DJ Durkin.
Yeah, absolutely. So, talk about defense there. Now, offense. And I'll leave the quarterback conversation to the side, but wide receiver. I mean, Auburn has completely flipped that room. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are not there anymore. And actually, today we're recording this on a Tuesday. Jay Ferris headed off to Southern California. That's where he's transferring to. But Auburn bringing in another one, the number one portal wide receiver, Keandre Lambert-Smith. 53 catches last year, 673 yards, 4 touchdowns. Really improving this side of the ball, this part of the team for Auburn. Cam Coleman, man, he was awesome in the 8A game. We know Perry Thompson's coming. I think Robert Lewis he played really well, I think, in 8A. I think that's a valuable receiver they got there. But your thoughts, too, with this addition of Lambert-Smith coming in from Penn State?
And a lot of people, I've, kind of seen this out and about, and I've had conversations with people, out in the public as well about, the wide receiver class. And Peyton Thorne shouldn't have an excuse for having a bad season this year. And I feel like, listening to him talk during spring practice, I feel like he's more confident now, because if you remember at Michigan State, when he had that great year, I believe it may have been 2021, where he led the Spartans to a Peach Bowl appearance and 10 wins. He had a guy named Keon Coleman that he was throwing to, a guy that went to Florida State last year, and now he's with the Buffalo Bills, recently drafted by the Bills, and a future Macy spokesperson, I believe. That's another future thing that Coleman has going on for him. But Peyton feels pretty confident. He's you got a true freshman, Cam Coleman, that's going to create matchup nightmares for a lot of defenses. In addition to him being able to catch and speed, he's got his height that's going to have. You've got Robert Lewis, who learned well from Jamari Thrash. Jamari Thrash was Georgia State's leading receiver before Robert Lewis. Jamari ultimately went on to Louisville, which paved the way for him to step into that role, and he did great wonders. So you got to think Robert Lewis having that experience. Bryce Kane was one that went through spring, and he should have a lot of good things. Malcolm Simmons, running track right now. He's, breaking state records. So, he's got a lot of speed with him. Perry Thompson's got some height to go along with him, too. So the receiver room is definitely going to provide more confidence to Auburn's quarterbacks. You assume it's still going to be Peyton Thorne just based on what we saw in A-Day. But Peyton Thorne seems to be a lot confident, too. And so that kind of answers the question of, you've got all these receivers that are coming in. Who is going to throw him the ball? Well, you got to feel a lot better about Peyton Thorne having all those targets to throw to, because if he's throwing to them and they're making plays, then his confidence is only going to soar. And I feel like we're definitely going to see more production out of Peyton Thorne this year because of how great those receivers are.
You must have been looking at my social media, because I was one of those that said that Peyton Thorne has no excuse not to play better this upcoming season.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and I know he caught a lot of stuff last year. But as you saw in the NFL draft, not the most talent, and you can blame a guy from Idaho for that if you want to, and I really wouldn't argue with you at all about that. But yeah, I feel like Hugh Freeze said, hey, we've got some issues here. Quarterbacks aren't doing what we need to do. Receivers aren't doing what they need to do. And if you look at his time at Ole Miss, look at his time at Liberty, quarterback, receiver, more so emphasis on the receivers, and then the quarterbacks, getting it to them, and the receivers making the quarterback look good. They just didn't really have what he's used to last season. So he went out, filled some needs, did what he needed to do in the recruiting world to get Cam Coleman. And, thankfully, Texas A&M said money's no object. Jimbo hit the road, and that allowed us to come in and grab him. And Perry Thompson, thankful for him that he stayed with Auburn after Nick Saban left. And I'm sure, Kalen DeBoer and all them and some of the other recruits like Ryan Williams probably tried to sway him to come back. But Perry Thompson's at Auburn too, and things are starting to look up, and maybe Peyton Thorne will have a great year, and then Walker White after Peyton Thorne leaves will probably have that same confidence. But that's really the only thing we can see right now. The pieces are there, but we've got to see everybody execute. And if all that happens, then you can expect Auburn to have a much better season this year on offense.
Yeah, let's not forget Rivaldo Fairweather. They're tied in. I felt like him and Peyton Thorne really had a good connection at times last year. I felt like Rivaldo was somebody that Peyton Thorne did look to in key drives and key moments in the pass game. So that's another piece people are going to look out for. And perhaps all these receivers all over the place, if they live up to expectations or close to that, that's going to open up things down the middle for the tight end.
Yeah, and you think about, Rivaldo Fairweather kind of being the size that he is. He was a wide receiver playing tight end. Not only does he have Rivaldo Fairweather, but you have Cam Coleman that's pretty much built the exact same way. So you've got two Rivaldo Fairweathers, or if you want to look at it the other way, two Cam Colemans on the field for Peyton Thorne to throw to. And that's exciting to me, Philip. I don't know if it is to you, but that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to watching this fall.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot more positivity, I think, about the offense going into this year than what we saw during the season. Real quickly, before we jump into a little bit of basketball, I want to take a few minutes for basketball before I let you go. So I think we're both kind of in agreement. We believe Peyton Thorne's going to be the quarterback when the season starts. Who do you see being quarterback number two?
I feel like Holden Geriner will probably get the shot, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if we see Walker White out there because I kind of, I didn't, there really wasn't much that gave me the indication that I felt like White was the number two guy. But when you look back at the box score, he had more opportunities to throw than any other of the backup quarterbacks that they did. And he was a little bit more accurate than the other quarterbacks too. And Holden Geriner, again, that's kind of been his story since he's been at Auburn, going to his third year right now, is that we've seen the tape on him, but every time he gets out on the field, we just haven't really seen anything from him that says, hey, if Peyton Thorne doesn't look out, Holden Geriner is going to take his spot. There's just nothing that's jumped out about Geriner that says, hey, here's a guy you need to look out for. So I would probably say starting off maybe the first two games on the depth chart, you may see Holden Geriner, but don't be surprised if by game 3, 4, possibly 5 that Walker White starts to climb his way up and try to get some reps in as he prepares to take over the team the next couple of years.
So basketball. Obviously, the season did not end how Auburn wanted it in the first weekend against Yale. And I don't know about you, Taylor, but I just felt like with this Auburn team, guard play has been a struggle the last few years. Have not been able to get out the first weekend. And we know how this goes football, basketball, anything sports. When one of the in state schools does one thing, there's pressure put on the other one. So with Auburn, just first, Janelle Broome coming back, there was, as soon as the season ended, there was speculation that maybe Auburn could get him to come back. Of course, with NIL deals and draft status and all that stuff, he's coming back for one more year. Just how huge was that getting him back? Because you're getting back one of the best returning players in college basketball.
Yeah, looking at some of the freshmen coming in, there's two really good guards that are coming in, especially Tahad Pettiford being the main guy in that class. J.P. Pegues from Furman is making his way in as well. So you have the enhancement at the guard. You have an experienced guard that averages over 30 minutes a game. He averages over 20 points. That's definitely going to help you there. You also think of what Shaney Johnson did at the end of the year. He went, really became a contributor there. And you just needed kind of that one leader, that one building block that kind of makes everything run. And sure enough, Janai Broome comes back. He's that main guy. Got a couple of energy pieces like Dylan Cardwell that's going to be back too. Chris Moore in the last couple of days has announced that he's going to come back. So, you've got, a solid blend of new guys that are coming in and some guys that have been here before and know what the foundation is like. They can continue laying that foundation, but that one leadership piece that makes everybody go is Janai Broome. And for him coming back is really going to help this Auburn basketball team and possibly get them to maybe the second weekend this time. We'll see what happens, but having Janai Broome back is absolutely incredible for Auburn, and things should be looking up for the Tigers as we go into this next season coming up in a few months.
Yeah, with like Aiden Holloway and Trey Donaldson and Katie Johnson leaving, we knew guard play, especially with JP Perkins coming in, it would be good for Auburn. That thing I'm kind of just wondering about, like, where do they go to replace the production that they got from Jalen Williams? Because I think that's a big piece. Obviously, the team you look on paper is missing right now, so somebody else is going to have to step. Will it be Dylan Cardwell? Will we see more out of Chad Baker Mazzaros? I think that's kind of like an interesting question for Auburn going into next year.
And they're still trying to dabble in the transfer portal for that forward position. There were talking to R.J. Godfrey from Clemson. He was supposed to be on campus this week. However, he has decided not to at this time. Not really sure if he's kind of made up his mind of where he wants to go. But I know he visited Oklahoma and Virginia Tech. Those were the two places that he visited. So I kind of wonder, it's kind of like the Phillip Bleedy situation for football, where he went to Auburn. Right after he left Auburn, he planned to go to Oklahoma. Then after he left Auburn, he said, no, I'm not going to Oklahoma. And the next day he committed to Auburn. So I kind of wonder if RJ Godfrey's kind of made up his mind and is electing to go to one of those two places. But they are, still looking at a couple of forwards in the transfer portal. And if not, possibly, put Chad Baker out there. Even if he, doesn't match the production that Jalen Williams is, you got to think he'll kind of take over that Katie Johnson role, just being an absolute thorn in people's sides this year. So the forward position, I feel like, will work itself out. I'm not as confident in that position as I am the guards because of the enhancements they've made from the recruiting and the transfer portal. But possibly look in the transfer portal for the next couple of days, possibly weeks, for Auburn to fill that need over at the 4 spot.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting with that. Let's see if Auburn can add. That's really like he's, like we say, that is the piece that kind of needs to be filled. But other than that, Auburn's got a good crew coming next year. Football, basketball, we covered it all. Not going to touch anything on the diamond because it's just not been a good year for baseball or softball for Auburn this year. So we're going to leave it on positive with football and basketball. And I said 20 minutes, Taylor. We've gone about 26, 27 in this conversation. But if the listeners and viewers will check out online, where can they find you? And where can they check out the Auburn Wire?
Yeah, check us out at auburnwire.usatoday.com. A lot of recruiting going on right now, a lot of transfer portal stuff. As we start to get into the summer, you can start to see more player profiles coming up. We'll start to examine SEC teams coming in. We'll be taking a look at Texas and Oklahoma, as those two teams will be joining the SEC in the next couple of months or so, and then we'll really get things going with them back in the fall. We'll still try to cover baseball and softball, even as you said, things are not going well right now. Baseball really needing a big series win over Ole Miss this weekend. If they don't, you might as well kiss your chances of going to Hoover goodbye. Softball has a big series this weekend against Alabama right before they host the SEC tournament, so we'll have coverage of both of those teams up until their final out is recorded. All of that at auburnwire.usatoday.com. You can also check us out on Facebook at the Auburn Wire and on X, formerly Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at the Auburn Wire on those social media platforms.
All right, sounds good. Everybody go check out the Auburn Wire. Go check out Taylor Jones, a great coverage over there. And Taylor, I appreciate the time and look forward we can do this again sometime down the road.
Hey, thank you, Phillip. As always, it was a pleasure talking with you.
All right, everybody, and that's going to do it for this edition of the Phillip Jordan Show here on Wiregrass Daily News and my YouTube channel, Phillip Jordan Sports. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with Taylor Jones. We went a little bit longer than we thought we would, but a great conversation talking all things Auburn football and basketball with Taylor. Remember, you can follow me on social media at PJordanSEC. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you're on Apple Podcasts, please follow, rate, and review. Leave a review. I will read it on a future edition of the show. And if you leave just 4 stars, you're just a straight up hater. And please check out the show on Apple Podcasts. Really helps me out a lot. More people see the show. Please hit that subscribe button. You can also watch the show over on my YouTube channel. As I mentioned, Phillip Jordan Sports. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for all notifications. And if you leave a comment on the video, I'll also read those on a future edition as well. Also can watch it over on the Wiregrass Daily News Facebook page. And please, if you see the link, either the audio link or the YouTube link, please share it out with all your friends. Let them know why should be checking out the Phillip Jordan Show. I will be back with another episode on Friday. Hope you will check that out. We'll get into some more football goodness. We're kind of that point of the year. I don't really talk NBA on here. So we're kind of getting that point where we're going into the summer. A lot of previews for football season will be coming your way. I may try to pull out some Atlanta Braves content at some point, but mostly, like y'all guys know, football podcast, football podcaster. So anyways, a lot of previews, a lot of discussion on individual teams will be coming up. And I'm going to be trying to reach out to some former coaches and players, stuff like that, to do some interviews as well. So plenty of content coming your way because you're really thinking about football season is not that far away from us. The Dustin Wolves will be having a spring game on May 10th over at the Vet. Part of a big deal up there. So we got some stuff going on with that too as well. Spring wrapping up for high school teams, and they'll be doing that as well. So a lot coming up. But anyways, I appreciate you checking out the show. as always. And until next time, till Friday. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Phillip Jordan Show. Subscribe to the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can watch the show over at the Phillip Jordan Media YouTube channel. Got a question or topic idea? Email the show at sportstalkphillipjordan@gmail.com. Join us next time for more great football talk.